Okay, in last video we talked about the first way we organize information by rules. Specifically, there are three rules we usually follow to structure the information: time order, the physical location, or physical closeness. Last one is similarity. So next, let's look at the second way for us to organize the information, which is by schemata. But first, what is a schemata? To explain it, I would like you guys to find a paper and draw a chair on this paper. You don't need to draw a really luxurious chair, just draw a simple chair. Okay, I'll give you seconds to draw that. Okay, so if you have a chair on this paper, I guess your chair has 4 legs and a platform or a flat where people can sit down, and probably has 2 arms and also probably a back. And I don't think any of your chair has like 10 legs or 20 arms. Why? Because a typical chair would have these 4 legs, 1 flight, probably 2 arms, and a back. And this is our schemata for a chair. So what is a schemata or schema? That is our mental structures that contain the key information defining the characteristics of various concepts. So in other words, the schemata for a chair is the key features or the key characters of a chair. So let's say in reality, if we see one object, this object has 4 legs, 1 flight, and 2 arms. So we can recognize, oh, this is a chair because this object has all the key features or characteristics which would fit our schemata of a chair. So in this way, we don't need to create a new category for this object, or we don't need to give it a new name. We just recognize, oh, this is a chair, and would categorize this object in our schemata, in the category in our mind for chair. That is the definition of schemata and one example of schemata. So schemata would enable us to organize and classify information and stimuli into manageable categories. Like I said earlier, in reality, if you see something which fits into the schemata of an existing category in your mind, so you don't need to give it a new name or create a new category for this object. What you need to do is just put it into an existing category in your mind. So in this way, schemata can help us kind of organize this information in a manageable way. Okay, so let me give you some more examples. What you see here on the screen, I guess you will say, well, it's a chair, very simple, right? How about this one? Looks like a fancy chair, but still a chair because this stuff has the 4 legs, a flight, a back, 2 arms, and all these key features would fit into our schemata of a chair. So we don't need to create a new name for it. We just put it into our existing category, which is chair. How about this one? Well, this one seems a little bit kind of confusing because first, it fits our schemata of a chair, right? Because it has these arms, this flight, and some legs. At the same time, it also fits into our schemata of a shopping cart, right? Wheels and a box here. You can put your stuff into it. So by this time, you got really confused because this object fits into 2 categories in your mind: shopping cart and a chair. So you got confused. How about this one? Well, this one, I guess it's really hard to tell what it is, right? Because it doesn't fit any category or doesn't fit any schemata you have in your mind. So I hope through this kind of examples, you have a clear understanding of what is a schemata. Of course, how we develop our schemata or how our schemata for a certain object looks like is really heavily influenced by our experiences, by what we read, what we watched. Let me give you here, give you another example. So if I'm gonna ask you guys, what does a ghost look like? And different people may give me different schemata of a ghost. Let's say if I ask a person from a Western culture, and this person may give a description like this, right? Looks scary. But if I ask a person from an Asian country, and this person may describe a ghost like this. What's the reason? The reason is that people from different countries, from different cultures, they are exposed to different media, to different descriptions of the ghost. So gradually, they would develop different schemata for the ghost. Let's say if I ask a little kid, how does a ghost look like? The kid may give me such a cute portrayal of ghost because in their schemata, this is how ghost looks like. So again, the way we develop our schemata, how our schemata looks like, is very influenced by the media we are exposed to, by the information we've received. So we've discussed this organization by rules and by schemata. Let's move to the last way for us to structure the information by script. Let me talk a little bit more about this schemata. So in other words, simply put, the schemata is our concise knowledge about a certain object, right? So in your mind, what does ghost look like? What is your knowledge about ghost? So that is a schemata. So for script, it is pretty similar with the schemata, but schemata is our mental scheme about a certain object, whereas the script is our knowledge about a certain event or activity. So given an event in your mind based on your knowledge, what is the protocol of this activity? What things you need to do for this activity? What kind of actions you need to take given a task, given an assignment. Let me talk a little bit more about this script. So if I'm going to ask you guys in your mind, based on your knowledge, what do students do in their first class, or what does the instructor do in the first class? Well, you may say, well, usually the instructor and students would do, well, first a self-introduction, and the instructor would kind of go over the syllabus and discuss his or her grading expectations, rubrics, and the learning outcomes. And then probably they will also do some ice-breaking activities. And then lastly, the instructor will take any questions from the students to about this course. So what you just described, or what I just described, is actually your script of the first class for a course. That is, given this activity, what things you need to do through what procedure. That is a script. So by definition, this script is an organized body of information about some action, event, or procedure. So the example I just gave you guys is the first day of class. Let me ask you, what is your script for taking a flight? Well, you may say, well, first you need to check in your baggage if you have any, and then print your boarding pass and going through this security check at the airport, and then wait at the gate and get on board. So what you just described is a procedure for you to take a flight, and that is your script of this activity. Okay, so what activities or what actions you need to take and following what procedure. That is the script. Okay, so that is the three big ways or three general ways for us to structure the information. That is the second step of perceptions organization. And next, let's move on to the last phase of perceptions, which is interpretation. So as we organize the selected information into a coherent mental model, we also engage in interpretations, which is assigning meaning to the information we organized and we paid attention to. And interpretation is actually a process where we compare what we see with the knowledge we already possess. So if let's say if the knowledge we found the knowledge we possess in our mind can explain what we see in the reality, and we can recognize that and we can interpret it without any problems. However, sometimes we found that the knowledge we have in our mind cannot explain what we see in the reality. And for this situation, we got to kind of make some inferences. We got to guess, make better use of knowledge we have, and then make some inferences. We're gonna talk a little bit more about it later in today's class. But let me talk a little bit more about this interpretation in general. So interpretation is, like I said earlier, you're gonna use your knowledge, your personal experiences. So this step is super subjective and is heavily influenced by our experiences, needs, values, expectations, and the current emotional state, and etc. So again, this interpretation process, this interpretation step is very subjective. So let's talk about what kind of ways we could use to interpret the meaning of the information we noticed. So usually we have three ways for us or guiding us to interpret the information. I'll show you the first one, but before I explain the first one, I'm gonna show you guys a paragraph in my next slide. So can you read through this paragraph? Here we go. Well, if you want to give it a try, feel free to read it aloud. So according to research at English University, it doesn't matter in what order the letters are in a word are. The only important thing is that the first and last letter are in the right place. The rest can be a totally mess and you can still read it without a problem. This is because we do not read every letter by itself, but the word as a whole, and the brain figures it out anyway. So we can see that most most words in this paragraph are misspelled, but we can still read it, understand it without any problem. It is because we do not spell out each word. Instead, we interpret the information or we interpret the words based on what we are expected to see. That is the first way for us to interpret information. That is by expectancy. So in other words, we interpret information based on what we expect to perceive or to see. So back to the paragraph we just read, we are expected to see each word, even though they are all misspelled. But actually, we understand this paragraph based on our expectations, based on what we are expected to read, to perceive. That is the first one. Let me give you some more examples. So what do you see on this screen, this part? Well, some of you may say it is a B, and some of you may say it is a number, 13. How about right now? Well, I would say it is definitely B because B is you are expected to see. So you tend to interpret it as a B because A and C give you this context and get you to feel that B is what you are expected to see. How about now? Number 13, right? Because number 13 is you are expected to see given this context. So again, we interpret the meaning of this symbol based on your expectations. So